Welcome everybody to the fifth class. So we are at the midway point, fifth class of the Atma Bodha study. As usual, we would like to acknowledge Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati for the traditional rendering of Vedanta as it was done for over 1,000 years, starting with Adi Shankaracharya. We'll say a small prayer. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Partyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Salutations to the lineage starting with Lord Sadashiva, with Adi Shankaracharya in the middle, and continuing up to our immediate teacher, Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati. So Shankaracharya is generally considered as one of the greatest intellectuals in the last several thousand years. And it's not very clear what time he lived in. Traditionally, the mutts or the monasteries established by Shankaracharya say that the traditional interpretation, he lived around 400 BCE, before Common Era. Around that time, then there's another group of historians who say he lived around 700 CE. That's the Common Era. And then there are another group of historians who are very vocal, and they said, no, he lived 782 was when he, or 780 was when he was born, 780 CE. So it's not clear. By going by the traditional interpretation, he lived around the time of the Buddha. But these are various numbers you see floating around. But he was there a long time ago, and he is generally known as a person who revived Hinduism from all the ritualistic beliefs, going back to its essence, which is the Vedas, the Shruti. Okay. With that, we will just see where we are. So we saw the introduction, that is the qualifications for this practice, and the problem due to ignorance. And then we saw this superimposition, that is when I am the consciousness, but when things like the body, the different sheets, the three different bodies get superimposed onto me, then there is this confusion developing. I get confused. So, and this entity which is called the individual or the jiva is now confused. It's a lost soul. And that is what this talked about, superimposition. Superimposition is not one way. It's not just everything onto me. It's also I onto everything, because of the Maya, the nature of the Brahman. Because Brahman is like consciousness, or Atma is like consciousness. And whenever you talk of consciousness, you have to talk of ignorance, because light goes with darkness. And this combination, due to the cyclical nature, sometimes projects things. So that is projection in this direction, and then there is superimposition in this direction. So the two directions, they cause all these problems. Then we saw the conditioners, upadhis. Upadhi is something which seems to, due to the vicinity, the most important thing for the upadhi is the two things have to be close. We saw a red flower and a pure crystal. The crystal looks red because of the vicinity to the flower. Similarly, the pure consciousness that's pervading the body, seems to take on the qualities of the body and the mind, and we feel small. So that is the problem with upadhi. Upadhi, the technical English word that is used, is a limiting adjunct. So like you talk about the adjunct faculty. Adjunct faculty is not a permanent member. It's a temporary member of a university. And what's the quality of this adjunct? It limits, it makes this big Atma into a limiting body. It's like space. You are, just because you say this, there is this room, and you say, oh, there's very little space. No, space is one continuum. I'm not talking about air, just space. Space is one continuing. We seem to limit it. So the room becomes a limiting adjunct for the space. And then now we are close to the end of this portion, solution to the superimposition. That is Atma, Anatma, Vivekam. That is, Atma is the consciousness. So in Vedanta and even in yoga, there are only two things, Atma and Anatma. There's consciousness and anything that is not conscious. So that is the matter. How do you distinguish between the two? What do you know to be consciousness and what is not? Even the mind is inert, but it seems to come alive, just like the electricity. We saw the apple sorting machine. Just like the electricity makes it come alive, the whole mind, the entire jiva, the mind-body complex seems to come alive, and because of multiple reflections. So that is where we are. And now we will enter this portion, which is called Jiva Brahma Aikyam. That is the oneness between this limited Jiva and the Brahman, the big consciousness. And this is the systematic portion of Vedantic study. It's called Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. 3 steps of getting this knowledge. We will see that. Okay. Now, we saw where this is a very important concept. I'll try to see if I can make some slides to illustrate this better. The learning does not happen in the pure consciousness. We saw that because consciousness doesn't change. Whenever you know something, you are a different person because of the knowledge you've gained. So therefore, pure consciousness has no change. It is just same eternally. And therefore, learning knowledge does not happen in the pure consciousness. Similarly, the intellect is inert, like the apple sorting machine. So where does this entire knowing take place? So the entire knowing takes place in the combination. So it's in the reflected consciousness. That is where the entire knowing takes place. It requires both the pure consciousness and the mind for this to happen. Okay. Now the question is, the mind can illumine a lot of things because of the reflected consciousness. So there are different analogies given. Here we saw the analogy of a moving mirror. You can move the mirror and it can shed light in a dark room. Like that, there's one consciousness like the sun. The sunlight reflecting on the mirror is like our mind. It's like the reflected consciousness, and the mind seems to come alive. And all these things are very thoroughly expounded in some of the Upanishads. And we are just seeing a small portion. And it also, we saw this logic, Anvaya Vyatireka logic. That is, if fire produces smoke. So if smoke is there, there's fire. If there's no fire, there's no smoke. So fire is the cause, smoke is the product. Similarly, here we saw that in the intellect is off during the deep sleep. And during the deep sleep, you don't have emotions, all that. That's why they say all these emotions, they belong to the intellect and they don't belong to the pure I, the consciousness. Okay. So now we are in the big question. This is where we stopped last time. The big question is, who is going to illuminate the Atma if it is not the intellect? So we saw the mirror can illumine the room because it's dark, but can the mirror illumine the Atma? No. It's a joke to say that the mirror can illumine, the mirror can the mirror illumine the sun? No, it's a joke to say the mirror can illumine the sun. Okay, so now the question is, how? This is the pressing question for all of us. How do I know this Atma? You're saying that I am the Atma. I'm very curious to know myself. You're saying I am not this body, I am not this mind. I really want to know myself. I want self-realization. All these big words everywhere they use, self-realization, self-knowledge. I really want to know this. How am I going to do this? Who is going to illumine the Atma? How am I going to shine light on the Atma and see that? So this is answered in shloka 29. So we previously saw where knowing happens. Knowing happens only when consciousness reflected in the intellects joins with the vritti of the mind. Vritti is like the thought patterns in the mind. So these two give rise to knowing. So because these thought patterns keep changing, so when the knowing is that process of the changing thought patterns, and the reflected consciousness is the chidabhasa. We saw that. Okay. Swabhode nanya bhode cha bhoda rupatayatmanah nadipasya dipe cha yata swatma prakashane. To know the self, swabhode na anya bhode icha, which what it means is that to know the self requires no other knowledge. Here, icha means requirement or necessity, and it doesn't mean desire. So, icha typically, even in Hindi, the word used is desire, but here it means necessity and not desire. Swa bodhe means atma bodhe, to know the self. Swa means self, one's own self. So swa bodha means to know. So swabodhe, to know the self, na anya bodha icha, which means requires no other knowledge. And the reason is bodha rupa tayatmanaha, the atma is of the form of knowledge itself. So every object in the world is known through a corresponding vritti. This is how knowing takes place. There's a thought pattern, like a sine wave going. You have a thought pattern in the mind. That is how knowing takes place. And then there's a memory. It's stored throughout the body as like memories. That vrittig jnanam, that is the thought modification, is referred to as anya bodha, no other knowledge. For one's own self is of the form of knowledge. Bodha rupa taya atmanaha. So what it's saying is, you do not need the mental modifications to illumine oneself, because Atma itself happens to be Swarupa Chaitanyam. It is just knowledge. It is of the form of knowledge. And the example given is Nadi Pasyanya Dipecha Yata Swatma Prakashane. A lighted lamp does not require another lamp to illumine its light, as it is self-luminant. So once you remove the cover, this is the example that's given in a previous shloka also. Once you remove, so here you are not removing the cloud, but once the cloud is moved, the sun is seen. Otherwise, it's dark. So similarly, it's like there are other examples which we'll soon see. Like a candle, you put a pot over the candle, and then that there's no light. All you need to do is to remove the pot. And as you're removing the pot, there's light, and there's plenty of light. So all you need to do is to remove all your preconceived notions about who I am. Then it'll become self-evident, because the Atma itself is of the form of light or knowledge. So a lamp does not require another lamp to illumine it. That's what is said in the sloka. Na deepa anya deepecha. So na deepasya anya deepecha. Just as a lighted lamp does not require another lamp, yata swatma prakashane, as it illumines itself, like that the Atma illumines itself. The three sharirams are inert, they cannot illumine. and Atma is self-luminant. Okay. Now, so in Vedanta, it's a combination of logic, and all this logic can happen only in a still mind. Okay. Next, we are going to see the process of um, last time I think Neeta asked this question. All this I kind of understand, but how do I go beyond and realize? It requires a process called nididhyasanam, which means internalization. So the first step is shravanam, which is listening. Shravanam means just listening to all these scriptures. Then mananam is to study it and make sure you're free of all the doubts. These kind of doubts, we'll see one was such thing which a student can ask. Finally, it is meditating and reflecting on your own nature. That is where yoga comes in. Yoga is needed to get a still mind. Okay. Now, there is a logic. So the one, okay, you're saying Atma is self-luminant. I don't need another Atma to activate it, to make it shine or illuminate. But what is the proof? So Vedanta gives, Vedanta is like logic. It's like math theorems. So here it says another light. If you say another light is necessary, then that light, in order to activate that light, because we saw the mind is inactive, right? The mind needs a light. It's like just a mirror. Mirror, can it shine? No. In this previous example we saw, can this mirror shine? No. It needs the original sunlight, then it can move and do all those things, right? So like that, if you say the Atma is also inert and it needs some other Atma to activate it, because this is to the point that, oh, the Atma is self-luminant, and if you're saying no, it needs some other Atma to illuminate, then it becomes a endless regression. It is called anavastha dosha. It becomes endless regression, and Sanskrit word is anavastha dosha. Dosha means it's like a fault. Anavastha means like endless fault. So the if you say first lamp requires second lamp requires a third lamp, it will go on to infinity. But then another smart person can come and say, okay, I illumine you. It's like bootstrapping. I pick you up, you pick me up, like that. I illumine you, you illumine me. Then if that comes, Vedanta also has a logical reasoning why it can't happen, because we can both be non-illumined. Then who's going to pick us both up? Or we can both be illumined. There are two states. Both states are feasible. And if you're stuck in the state where you're both not illumined, then you can't come out of it. Therefore, Vedanta says circular dependency still leads to anavastha. So it says Atma is indeed self-luminous. So reflected consciousness is not, it's like the reflection in the mirror from the sun. Think of it like a reflected consciousness. It is not necessary to illumine the original consciousness, because reflected sunlight is not necessary to illumine the original sunlight. Chidabhasa, or the reflection that you see in the mind, what makes the mind go alive, is not necessary to illumine the chit, the original consciousness. But you need this to remove the darkness and the ignorance, to know that you are the Atma. Is this point clear to everybody? So in one way, the mind is needed. And why is it needed? To understand yourself, it is needed to remove the ignorance. But once you remove the ignorance, the Atma will be self-evident. Once you remove all these associations with, oh, I'm thinking I am the body, I am the mind, when all that is gone, you will know your true nature. That's what it says. Okay. I didn't hear any feedback from anybody. Okay. All right. Okay. And this re-emphasizes shloka 4, like a sun shining when the clouds are removed. That is the vritti jnanam, the mind thought patterns is required not to illumine the Atma, but it's to remove the ignorance. Parichinnaiva jnanat tannashe sati kevalaha swayam prakashate hyatma mega payem shumaniva. Shankaracharya in the fourth, in the introduction part, very clearly he says, due to ignorance, the self appears to be covered and limited. Upon the destruction of the ignorance, the self alone remains, like the sun remaining shining bright. Then Atma merely shines on its own, just as the sun shines when the clouds are removed. Okay, so now we will summarize this portion of the Atma Anatma Viveka. So, Atma is a consciousness, Anatma is anything but the consciousness. It's all the matter, let's say it that way. Matter, energy, everything. So we saw two problems of Maya. So I'm just summarizing what we've seen. Maya, or the ignorance, it has two problems. Vikshepa Shakti, the power of projection, and Avarana Shakti, the power of wheeling. We saw that, right? When two countries, they're near each other, one of them suspects, something is going on, and then they start deploying forces along the border. So that's like the power of projection. The original cause is ignorance. You don't know what the motives are. And then it causes further problems down the line. Then Atma Anatma Vivekam is the first phase of Vedantic inquiry, addressing the Avarana Shakti, the feeling power. This is the biggest problem. Avarana Shakti is the one causing all the problems. You can live with the projected power. You can live, we'll come to that later. What it says is that once the ignorance is removed, you can live a perfectly fine life as an enlightened person till your karma gets over and the body drops. It is the Avarana Shakti, or the wheeling power, that has to be removed. What did Atma Anatma Vivekam sort out? It sorts out the subject-object difference. I, the subject, and everything else is the inert object. My mind is also the inert object, because I can see the thoughts in my mind in still meditation, which is why yoga is important. It sorts out the secondary adhyasa called anyonya adhyasa. Okay. The secondary adhyasa is more of a serious problem than the primary adhyasa we saw, because it is the ignorance, the wheeling power, which is the cause of all problems. I can still live with a projected power in this material world that I have projected. I can still live with that as long as I know, even in a dream. So one of the examples that's given is some people, they're going through a bad dream, and they would have this awareness. It is unpleasant, but I'm going through this. And at some point, they will choose to wake up. I had enough of this, I wake up. So it's like that. This dream thing is studied very closely in Vedanta, all the subtle aspects of it, because it is a different pratibhasika satyam. It is a different level of reality. So there are three levels. There's paramarthika satyam, that is the absolute reality. Then our level is the transactional reality, vyavaharika satyam. Then there is the pratibhasika satyam, that is the dream, and also a mirage, all these fantasized notions. All those things are called pratibhasika satyam. So we've sorted out the problem of the wheeling power, the vikshepa, the avarana shakti. Now we have to sort out the primary adhyasa, the prathamika adhyasa, which is I project everything. Now, how do I deal with that? We saw that, right? Light and the darkness projects the entire world. Now, how do I deal with that? It is not that serious of a problem, but we still have to deal with this. This is the knowledge that I, through Maya, that is the Atman alone, has created the entire universe. I, the Atma alone, has created the universe. I am the cause. and the Jagat is the Karyam, effect. I am the Karanam, the cause, and the Jagat or the world is the Karyam or the effect. Previously, because okay, now so this confusion is now gone. So, and what is the result of knowing that I am the cause and the universe is the effect? There is no matter different from I. And Swamiji says, then matter will not matter anymore. There will be no fear. Bhayam vahe, that's what Shankaracharya says. The universe is seen within oneself as like a city seen in our mirror image. The entire projection is a reflection in it's a thing in our mind. It's a mind generated thing, but this mind is at the cosmic level. And if you know that you, the essence is you, the Atma, the same as the Brahman, then that thing will also be sorted out. That's what will be seen in the next portion. So this ends part 4, Atma Anatma Vivekam, or the solution to the superposition by knowing what is Atma, what is Anatma, what is conscious, and what is not. Vivekam is the discriminating power between the two. Now comes part 5. Jiva Brahma Aikyam. That is the oneness between this individual that's called Jiva and that Brahman, the all-pervading consciousness, which is the only reality in the universe. So these are verses 30 to 39. One of them, we introduced this concept of neti neti previously, and that is again repeated here. I will see that that is the process of this discrimination. Neti neti means na iti, na iti. Na means no, iti means this. Not this, not this. So you come and anything that you can see, anything which is an object is not you, because you are the subject. Thereby you eliminate everything that is not you. And that is how whatever remains is you. So negating every conditioning upadhi this way. Okay, then we are taking care of the secondary adhyasa, which is the projected thing. So we've projected an entire universe, and we've, with this confusion removed, now we are going to just systematically say, okay, all these things are not me, these are all projections, and we will sort out the prathamika adhyasa, which is the projected illusion. So this is done through a systematic study of Vedanta. And the first part is Shravanam, systematically listening to the Upanishadic teaching from a competent teacher. In our case, it's Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati. And Mananam is use of logical reasoning to remove doubts, samshaya. Doubts, samshaya means doubts about what you heard in the Shravanam during the listened portion. And finally comes Vedantic meditation. This is called Nididhyasanam, meditation to internalize and assimilate the teaching so it becomes one's natural vision and not just intellectual knowledge. So the first 2 shlokas refer to Shravanam, systematically listening to the Upanishadic teaching from a competent teacher. And it is called Mahavakya Shravanam. So Mahavakya is a concept used in Vedanta. It means the great equation. So you don't say 4 is equal to 4. You don't equate two things that are the same. You can say 7. You will see equations written like this: 7 minus 5 is equal to 14 minus 12. The two sides are kind of different, right? But they are one and the same. The answer is 2 in both cases. So this is like this little jiva and this entire universe or God or whatever you call it, they're one and the same, because the only content there is I, the Atma or the Brahman. It's just one continuous thing which is reflecting in its own projection. So this is called a Mahavakya, or the great equation. And you don't even equate 5 is equal to 10. No, those are two completely different things. You don't say, oh, okay, my upadhi is the same as God's upadhi. No, your upadhi, the thing that you're inhabiting, is a puny thing. God's thing is the entire universe, but you are the same as God. That is a fact. Okay, so you can't equate 3 to 5, and at the same time you don't say 5 is equal to 5, because it's obvious. Okay, the Mahavakyams equate things that look different but are the same. So we will now study these. It's a very famous shloka, beautiful shloka also. Nishidya nikhilopadin neti neti ti vakyatah vidyadaikyam mahavakyai jivatma paramatmano. Nishidya nikhila upadi. Nikhila upadin nishidya. Nishidya means negation. By negation of all the upadis. Upadis are the conditionings. And through how? Through the help of the scriptural statement, neti neti iti vakyataha. Neti means na iti vakyataha. Vakyam means a statement. As per the scriptural statement, not this, not this. Vidyad aikyam mahavakya. One should know that identity between what two things? Jivatma paramatmano. Between this individual, that is the jiva, and the supreme, what we call the God or the paramatma. That's indicated by the mahavakyam, the great equation. So is that clear? So neti neti. So there are two, not this, not this. So it's, why is it quoted twice? You can just say not this. So in the Brihadaranyaka commentary, it is said that the first neti is to remove the samashti prapancha, the macrocosm, the difference between you and the macrocosm. And the second neti is to remove the vyashti prapancha. Samashti prapancha, prapancha is just the universe. Samashti means total universe, and the vyashti is the individual universe. And what's our individual universe? It is this body. Okay, vyashti prapancha is the microcosm of the individual. So that's the two netis. Now moving on to the next shloka. Avidyakam shariradi drishyam bhutpudavacharam yetat vilakshanam vidyat aham brahmeti nirmalam. Avidyakam sharira adi, which means the physical body, etc., up to the causal body. Avidya here means that which is in the form of ignorance. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to point out in Sanskrit, avidya means lack of knowledge. Avidyakam here it means it's total lack of knowledge, which means complete ignorance. So that refers to the causal body, because we saw the causal body is of the form of total ignorance. That's why it's also called the bliss body. Last time, I think it was Amy who asked the question. So Brahman is bliss because it is total, full knowledge. When you know everything, it's bliss. And the Maya is also bliss because it's complete ignorance. So both cases cause bliss. It's only halfway point which causes problems. And that's where we operate in. Okay, so avidyakam sharira, the physical body up to the causal body. So what are the three bodies? The sthula shariram, the physical body, the sukshma shariram, which is the mind, etc., and the causal body, which is the seed body. Avidyakam sharira adi means etc. Drishyam bhutpudavaksharam means drishyam here means object of experience. Drashta and drishyam. Drashta is the seer, drishyam is the seen, the object of experience. Budbudavat sharam means like bubbles, they perish. Budbuda means bubbles, they're perishable like the bubbles. All these perceived objects, all born from ignorance, are perishable like bubbles. Etat vilakshanam vidyat. Realize, etat vilakshana means different from all this. Aham brahmeti nirmalam, different from these. I am the pure Brahman. Aham Brahma iti. Note thus that I am that Brahman. Nirmalam means I am blemishless. Malam means a blemish or dirt. I am pure. I am blemishless Brahman. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out is from the from this verse onwards, Shankaracharya has slowly made without us noticing, he slipped something. And what is that? From here, he starts addressing I, instead of saying that consciousness, that Brahman, he starts addressing I am that Brahman. You're owning up to that true nature. I am that pure consciousness. He slipped that in. From here onwards, it is I, he will use in the um, singular, in this, I am that, I am this. This is how he's going to address. Um, so this verse is very similar to the previous verse. In the previous verse, he said, negate all the upadis. Now he's saying, reject the three sharira upadis. All these three bodies arise from maya or ignorance. In the process of establishing the superiority of the self, these upadis are not to be run down. They are not to be relegated as worthless, not to be sneered as inconsequentials. They are needed, but you have to know that it's important, but it's not you. That's all you're saying. It doesn't mean don't take care of the body. You have to take care of the mind and the body because they are needed to remove the ignorance. Like bubbles, simile here in the shloka is like bubbles perishing in the water. The three bodies perish. It doesn't mean they're useless. It's just they're temporal, and that's not you, the permanent entity. Next, we go to mananam, that is the use of logical reasoning to remove doubts or samshaya about what you heard in the shravanam, the listening portion. देहान्यद्वान्न मे जन्म जरा कार्शलयादयः शब्दादि विषयै सङ्गः निरिन्द्रियतया न च देहा अन्वयत्वात् न मे जन्म. What it means is beautiful. Shankaracharya, he's a master. The way he uses all this language. Look, deha anvayatvat name janva. Because I am other than the body, I am free not from death. I am free from birth. Name janma jara akarsha laya adayah. I am free from janma, birth, jara, old age, decrepitude, akarsha, senility. Akarsha means so krish means to pull. So akarsha means negation. So akarsha here means it does not pull. So when the mind has lost its pull, it is called senility. Look at the word that is there. Akarsha. Krishati means that which pulls. When the mind stops pulling, then you the memory is lost, senility comes. Then laya means dissolution. Okay, that is why dissolution at the individual level is called death. At the cosmic level, it's called pralaya. So anybody familiar with the word pralaya? At least people who are familiar with the Indian languages? Yes, no? Have you heard the word pralaya? Nita, Shubhashmita? Yes, okay. Pralaya is death at the cosmic level, or it's just dissolution at the cosmic level. In individual level, it's called laya. It's also called nidra. So at the individual level, it is called, when we sleep, it's called nidra. When the universe sleeps, when the God sleeps, it's called yoga nidra. Okay. Laya is dissolution. I have then Shabdadi Vishaya Sangaha. I have no association with the sense objects. Shabda means sound, all that. I have no association with the sense objects such as sound. Nirindriyataya nacha. So, for I am without the sense organs. I don't have any sense organs. The sense organs are there in the body, but it is not me. I just inhabit the body. It's like saying the home has all these fancy equipment, speakers, and all this. So you can't say, oh, that speaker is me. No, that you inhabit a home with all the beautiful microphones and speakers, but that is not me. Okay. Amanastvan me dukha ragadvesha bhayadayah aprano hyamana shupraha ityadi shruti shasanat. So amanastvat, so previously he says dehanyatvat. So dehanyatvat. And all this means because I'm not that, because I'm not this, and this he will again repeat later. Here he's saying amanastvat means because I am not this mind. Look at this importance. Everything is a gem of a shloka. I have no dukkha, sorrow, raga, attachment, dvesha, malice or hatred, bhayam, I have no fear because I am not this mind. Aprano hyamana shubhraha. Apranaha, I am without the prana. Mana and shubhra means I'm pure. Itya, so declare the scripture. Iti adi shruti shasanat, thus declare the scriptures. So the four parts of the mind, mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, the pancha prana, prana, apana, vyana, samana, udhana, the 10 indriyas, the karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas. We saw that, right? Karmendriyas are the indriyas of action, that is your feet, hands, your speech, organ of elimination, organ of reproduction. All this are the pancha karmendriyas, and the pancha jnanendriyas are the sense organs, touch, smell, all that, sight. So, and verse 32 negated the physical body and the 10 indriyas. Here, the rest of the subtle body is negated, the prana and everything. Okay, so as I said, the subtle point in verses 31 to 33, I is used instead of that self. Previously, he was using that self, tat. Now he says, aham, I. You're owning up to that self. Through Shravanam, the textual knowledge, this knowledge has been acquired. Through Mananam, that is through the systematic study, the doubts have been cleared. Now the seeker has niksamshaya jnanam, doubtless knowledge. The only thing that is left is to internalize that through process called nididhyasanam. This is Vedantic meditation that is covered in 34 through 39. In the next 6 shlokas, this is meditation to internalize and assimilate the teaching so it becomes one's natural vision and not just intellectual knowledge. So this is different from upasana or object-based meditation, because Vedantic meditation is meditation on the meditator, on meditation on the self. The common misconception is nididhyasanam is atma anubhavam. It is like one of these days, a lot of people go to this ayahuasca retreats and all those. They have some purpose. They open up some of the portions of the mind, but that is not this. It is not an experience. You go into the state of high and all that. No, it is not an event of experience of Atma. There's no event called Atma Anubhavam because Atma is being experienced all the time. It is not like suddenly this light fills our head and oh, no, it is not that. It is just the realization. This is what it is. I'm not the mind and everything because my mind is very still now. I can see the thoughts in my mind come and go, the slow thoughts. Very clearly, I can see I'm not the mind. What is left behind is I. That is the experience. Vedantic meditation is to remove habitual identification and worries and fears deep inside. In that process, you will get exalted states of mind from meditation. All that is part, but that is not this nididhyasana. All these siddhis, everything will come apparently, but they're not talked about because they're a distraction. Siddhis are the superpowers. In this process, a lot of siddhis will come, but they don't talk about it because it can distract people. Then people will start looking for the siddhis instead of knowing who I am. Continuing. Nirguno nishkriyo nityah nirpikalpo niranjanah nirpikaro nirakarah nityamukto'smi nirmalah. Now Shankaracharya is quoting 9 attributes of the Atma. Okay, so in different texts, different attributes are quoted. Some of them are kind of repeats, but there are 9 quoted here, and we'll look at them. I am, okay, I am without attributes. Nirgunaha. Nirgunaha means, guna means the quality or the attribute. I am without attributes. Nishkriyaha. I am without actions. I don't do any actions. I'm like the electricity in that apple sorting machine. The machine does everything. The inert machine, when provided with electricity, sorts. Therefore, can you say electricity is doing all that? Yes and no. Electricity is not coming and moving this, but it's powering the machine. Similarly, consciousness is powering this body, and that it's the mind-body complex which does the actions. So I am without actions. I am eternal, nityaha, eternal, from time immemorial. Nirvikalpaha, I am without any desire and thought. Nirvikalpaha. And then I am niranjanaha, without any dirt. Anjanaha means dirt. I am without any dirt. I am pure. Nirvikaraha, without any change. Vikara means change. Nirvikara means without any change. Nitya muktaha, then nirakaraha means without form. Akaras, form. I am without any form. So if you see, without attributes, without form, form is also an attribute. So they're kind of repeats. Typically, there are only 5 of this. Some of these are repeated, but Shankaracharya is doing this to make sure we understand. Nitya muktaha, I am ever liberated and ever pure. Nirmalaha. See, nirmalaha and niranjanaha are more or less the same, but slight difference. Niranjanaha means it does not have borrowed impurities which come because of association with the body. So if you say the body is very dirty, so we saw this point before. The consciousness then being, when it's in contact with the body, does it become dirty? No. Nirmalaha means when its consciousness is away from the body, after the body has fallen, it stands for that state. It is innate purity. Nirmalaha, innate purity. Niranjanaha means even it is anjana here, borrowed impurities. It does not have borrowed impurities. So Vedantic meditation should culminate in liberation. Meditation is not for culmination. Liberation is said. Okay, let me put it this way. Vedantic meditation, you should not think that after I do the Vedantic meditation, I get liberated. No, you are in an ever liberated state. There's all this shackles, it's all imagined shackles. Meditation is to get the clarity that you are liberated. Later, it'll swakanda bharanam yata. It's like an ornament on one's own neck. You've been looking for the ornament, but this ornament is in one's own neck. So, Vedantic meditation is not to get to that state, it is to realize that you are already liberated. So these are the 9 properties of the Atma in verse 34. Then continuing, Ahamakashavat sarvam bahirantargatochyutah sada sarvasamasiddah nissango nirmalo chalaha. Aham akashavat sarvam, like space, I fill all things. Bahirantargato chutaha. Bahi means outside, anta means inside. Like space, I fill all things within and without. Achyutaha, the name is used. Achyutaha means one who does not fall, or immutable and changeless one. So Achyutaha, aham, Achyutaha, I am changeless. Achyuta also refers to Bhagavan Krishna. That's the name, because God has no fall, immutable and changeless. Sada sarva samaha. And it's also said, when God takes descent as avatara to cleanse the world of when yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, when the time of atrocities has reached a very high value, then apparently Bhagavan takes avatara. So he takes avatara due to the Maya, whereas we fall into this life because of our karma. So achyutaham, we fall. Chutam means fall, but Bhagavan has no fall. Bhagavan descends due to the Maya, whereas we fall because of our karma. Sada sarva samasiddha. Sada, same in all. And siddha, this is, some people use shuddha. Siddha means perfected, shuddha means pure. You can use both things. Same in all and at all times, I am ever pure. Nissangaha, I am unattached. Nirmalaha, stainless. Achalaha, I am motionless. So Nirmalaha means free from ignorance. So Brahman, I, the consciousness, am free from ignorance. So Nirmalaha is used twice, and Niranjanaha is used once. We can interpret them in different ways. Nirmalaha means, we've seen before. Here we take the meaning as free from ignorance. Okay. Then moving on to 36. Nitya Shuddha Vimuktaikam Akhandanandamadvayam Satyam Jnanamanantam Yat Param Brahmahame Tat. Nitya Shuddha Vimukta Ekam. So the word Nityam should be added to each of this. I am Nitya Shuddha, Nitya Vimukta, all that. So I am always ever pure, ever, then ever liberated. Nitya Vimukta means liberated, one who's, I am Nitya Vimukta, I am ever liberated. Akhandananda, Nitya Akhandananda. Akhandananda means indivisible bliss. It is total bliss. Why is he using this bliss? Because the temporary happiness is when you're eating, or listening to music, or seeing a nice movie. They are temporary bliss. Nitya Akhandananda means it is indivisible. It is part of the true nature. Whether an outside event happens or not, doesn't matter. It is your true nature. That is indivisible bliss. And Nitya Advayam, ever non-dual. So the non-dual means here refers to it's the duality comes when you see I as different from God or some other being, or I as small. That's what causes the duality. Or I am different from the body, but in Vedanta it says, talks about absolute non-duality. Even this body in a at a higher level is just a projection upon Brahman. Okay. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yat, that which is changeless existence, knowledge, and limitless, yat Param Brahmeha Meva Tat, that Brahman I verily am. So Satyam is changeless existence, Jnanam is knowledge, Anantam is limitless, infinite, that I verily am. Okay, so Sat means it is existence. Satyam means it is that changeless existence. Okay, so he's talking about different. He's talked about different qualities. This is the how you have to meditate. As like in your meditation, you fill yourself as this ever pure, ever liberated, ever indivisible. So these are all the nididhyasanam, how Shankaracharya is telling how you have to meditate. Now he is coming to saying how long to practice this nididhyasana before you get the realization. एवं निरन्तराभ्यस्ता ब्रह्मैवास्मीति वासना हरत्य विद्या विक्षेपान् रोगानिबरसायनम्. Thus, by constant practice, nirantara krita, nirantara abhyasa. So some people use the krita, some people use abhyasa. Abhyasa means practice. By nirantara abhyasas, by constant, endless, nirantara means endless practice of aham brahme eva asmi iti vasana. Aham Brahma eva asmi iti vasana. Vasana means the mental thought that I am Brahman, with this impression, vasana that's created, and this vasana is becoming stronger and stronger. This impression is becoming stronger and stronger that I am Brahman. Harati vidya avidya avikshepan. It removes ignorance and vikshepa, mental agitation, due to we have this habitual mental agitations. Here vikshepa refers to the habitual mental agitation. So by constant practice that I am Brahman, it removes the ignorance and the mental agitation, just as rasayana or medicine, roga niva rasayanam, as medicine destroys disease. So that is the simile used. As medicine is used to remove disease, the constant practice of nididhyasanam removes ignorance and mental agitation. This is what gives peace to the mind. So now Shankaracharya will go into the instructions for meditation in verses 38 through 39. So there, these two verses will talk about how to do this meditation. Okay, so Vedantic meditation is different from Upasana. Upasana is the first step, is to get the mind still. That's what's talked about in yoga. Once the mind has become still, you can shine the light whichever way you want. You have full control over it, and you can achieve greater things. Okay. With that, we will stop the recording.